Lorwyn Eclipsed brings us back to a richly and imaginative plane. But more importantly, it introduces us to new mechanics that will fundamentally impact our gameplay and draft decisions going forward. In this video, I want to take a closer look at the mechanics that truly define this set, not just what they say on the card, but how they reflect the contrast at the heart of Lorwyn and Shadowmoor: order and chaos, community and individualism, growth and degradation. These themes aren't just for decoration or aesthetic choices. They're built directly into how the gameplay and draft, of course, is designed for this set. If you approach these mechanics the same way you approach similar ones in the past, you might run the risk of misevaluating cards and make decisions based on outdated assumptions. It's very important to pause and understand how this set is asking us to think differently. Let's start with a mechanic that's being introduced to the game for the very first time: Vivid. So Vivid is an ability that highlights the effects that scale with the numbers of different colors among the permanents you control. The Vivid ability represents well what the universe of Lorwyn is: bright and colorful, optimism, community, selflessness, full of life. So Vivid encourages color, diversity, and it rewards you for maintaining a color-diverse board. An interesting example of a card that uses this new ability is Prismatic Undercurrents. It rewards you for having a colorful board, letting you search basic lands when it enters and give you extra land drops. Another interesting example of Vivid in use is Explosive Prodigy, which takes the number of colors you use and causes that number of damage to a creature your opponent controls. You might be thinking, so what would be a smart way to actually enable all of this? And to help with that question, Lorwyn Eclipsed includes hybrid cards. They are multicolor. You can pay for each hybrid mana symbol with mana of either color. For example, Voracious Tomb Skinner is a blue and black card, even if you paid only swamps or islands to cast it. But for multicolor strategies, it counts as 2-color. Other examples of cards that you can consider on that strategy are Reaping Willow, Catharsis, and especially the cards that represent the Eclipse cycle. Each of the core 5 Lorwyn creature types is represented in the Eclipse cycle. These 2-color hybrid creatures all have enter triggers that help you dig for a land or a card with their creature type. Hybrid mana synergizes very well with Vivid. Once you understand Vivid, multicolor stops being a separate topic and becomes the infrastructure that supports it. At first look, you might think it's similar to Devotion, so that's important to clarify the distinction. It's different from Devotion, because if you look at the details, you can see it's more limited than that, because Devotions you can have more, and of course here you're limited to 5. When the creature enters, for instance on the Shine Striker, when the creature enters, you draw a card equal to the number of colors among the permanents you control. So you will be limited to 5. As you will notice, the duality between Lorwyn and Shadowmoor is very present in this set. You can see that duality everywhere, in the game mechanics, the way the cards are designed, and even in the art and broader concepts of the set. And that brings us to another new mechanic that represents as well the Shadowmoor side of this plane, and that is Blight. Blight is a keyword ability that places N -1/-1 counters on permanents where N is the listed value. Shadowmoor is Lorwyn's dark reflection and represents night, perpetual gloom, bitterness, and what we'll see in this ability represents well that. Blight promotes -1/-1 counters for both players, and that's gonna be actually a prominent feature of Lorwyn Eclipsed, is the -1/-1 counters. Even one of the commander decks previewed by Wizards has a lot of that mechanic. So we'll go to more details on some cards that use the mechanic a lot in a future video, especially the commander, Oriu, Corswatch. We'll break more in detail in a separate video. Today we're focusing more on the mechanic itself. Many cards have that even as a ward cost. So for an opponent to be able to use remove spells, for instance, they would have to put -1/-1 counters on their own creatures. But the Blight ability many times makes you put -1/-1 counters on your own creatures. And at first sight, that is not a good thing. But that is the beauty of Magic. Under the right circumstances, these -1/-1 counters can actually provide good opportunities for a well-planned deck to shine. So you can use that for combo law. Maybe you want to reanimate something, so it can be smartly used. So what can be good about -1/-1 counters on your own creatures? Well, let's start with Moonshadow, for example. You just need 1 black mana, 1 swamp, and you can get it in the game right away. It comes with 6 -1/-1 counters, but there's no way you would have a creature like that right in the beginning of the game if it weren't for those -1/-1 counters. And also, any permanent cards that goes to graveyard, it will remove one of those -1/-1 counters. So your creature is gonna grow faster, and also you can use other creatures that have abilities that benefits from taking those -1/-1 counters. But we'll get there in a minute. First, let's talk a little bit more about cards that benefit from actually putting -1/-1 counters. One great example of that is the Skullback Scrounger. This is a creature that will allow you to actually have a treasure every round as long as you put -1/-1 in one of your creatures. Notice that the -1/-1 doesn't need to be only on the Scrounger. You can Blight with other creatures and get treasures as you do it. The Dream Caesar makes your opponent discard a card. Another interesting card to use that strategy is the Wickersmith's Tools. That is an artifact that gets a charger when you put a -1/-1 counters. So you accumulate those chargers. And then with 5 mana, you can sacrifice the artifact and then you can create tokens. You can create tokens based on the number of chargers you have. And then finally, you have the creatures that have the ability of taking -1/-1 counters of themselves while benefiting from it. A great example of that is Glen Elendra Guardian. Because while it removes its own counters, it has the ability to counter a target non-creature spell. And then you also have the Brambleback Brute. While it's removed its own counter, it prevents one creature from blocking. And some other examples of creatures that can remove their own counters. Hovel Herder. It removes a counter, another creature you control gets +1/+0 and gains flying until the end of the turn. Reaping Willow. It returns a creature card with mana 3 or less from the graveyard right into the battlefield. And the Moonlit Lamenter, which lets you draw a card as you remove the -1/-1 counters. And besides that, Blight also amplifies some instant and spells. For instance, Cinder Strike is a sorcery that deals 2 damage to target creatures. But if you Blight one, it deals 4 damage instead. Similar thing happens with Racketing Hex. You destroy target creature with mana value 2 or less. And if you Blight one, you gain 2 life. Burning Curiosity allows you to exile 1 more card if you Blight one. And you also have Dose of Downglow, in which Blight is part of the cost to execute the spell. As you might notice, one of the pre-com decks available for Lorwyn Eclipsed is themed around Blight. And if you notice on the box, it says Unleash Creature Combos. And it is great to see combo synergies actually put in the pre-com deck. When playing Lorwyn Eclipsed, it's very important to focus on the synergy your cards will have and how they will help the others. When planning some decks around Blight, it might be worth considering existing cards from previous sets, like Nest of Scarabs, Obelisk Spider, Persistent Constrictor, and Mykias, the Unhallowed. These are just some ideas of cards that would work well with this mechanic. but you might be already thinking on other cards that will work well with these -1/-1 counters. Another card that uses the Blight ability in an interesting way is the Dawnhand Dissident. He allows you to surveil 1 if you Blight 1, and he also allows you to exile a target card from a graveyard if you Blight 2, which is a very interesting ability. And then, during your turn, you may cast creature spells from among cards you own exiled with this creature, by removing 3 counters from among creatures you control in addition to paying their other costs. It's going to be a valuable asset for mid-range and sacrifice-based deck, offering repeatable graveyard interaction and card selection through Blight abilities. Its flexibility will guarantee a place in many great decks. It reminds it has some similarities with the Deathrite Shaman, so you can exile a card from your graveyard, and it's interesting that you can remove counters, so you can remove finality counters, you can remove stun counters, so it can be useful in many ways in the game. It's an elf, so it's very interesting to have a card like that on an elf deck. In the elf Golgari, that means green and black, is actually a very interesting deck and one of the main among the archetypes present in the set. I am currently working on a video that will explain more of the possible archetypes and typo synergies, and the goal of that video is to make it a draft guide for Lorwyn Eclipsed. It will have more explanations of each of the main archetypes, example of strategies and combos for each of those, and of course, many more cards that you will want to be on the look for while drafting for this set. So, subscribe to know Mulligan and you won't miss that video and many others that I'm planning. So those are the 2 new mechanics that really define how Lorwyn Eclipsed plays. If you understand Vivid and Blight, the rest of the sets start making a lot more sense. Because these are foundational concepts that the set is built upon. And that foundation matters. Because many of the mechanics in this set already existed before. But now, they have a new spin that makes a lot more sense once you understand the core concepts of this set and what this set is trying to accomplish as a whole. I actually have a follow-up video where I continue by focusing on another foundational concept that's been part of Magic for a long time, but becomes even more important in Lorwyn Eclipsed. How the set thinks about creature types, Kindred, and the language we use around them. Types, tribes, are they different things? What is the difference? It's the next step in understanding this set, and you'll see that video on your screen. That's the best place to go next.